This is Villain for All Seasons, episode 34. I'm Ben.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Dan. I got revelations for us. I can dive right in if you're
Let's
down.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. By memory.
I don't have revelations for us. But I think I tried to read it when I was a kid because it's like the best book of the Bible, right?
It's certainly like the fan fiction edition. I'm pretty sure that wasn't in the Bible for like the first 1,000 years, and then they were like, "All right, we need to remaster this thing."
It's the Redux.
Yeah,
It's
it's
Empire.
It's the Apocrypha.
Yeah, so I'd just like to start off by just taking a moment to be serious and recognize that in the past week, we've seen I don't know what you call it, besides just a like cold-blooded assassination of two young Palestinian journalists in Gaza. Hussam Shabat and Mohammed Mansour were both not only targeted by the Israeli military, but they told the world that they were targeting them. They told them they were targeting them specifically for their journalism. These are young men. Hussam Shabat, I think, was 23 years old. Mohammed Mansour was killed along with his wife and his son in Khan Yunis. So I don't really know what to say about it. I've been following both the reporting over the last 15 months, and it's just horrible. And it's just, I keep saying it every week. The Israeli government and military just keeps finding ways to sink the bar lower and find new levels of depravity. So I just wanted to pay our respects of the podcast for whatever that's worth. Two people who really exemplify bravery in the profession of journalism.
I wonder something that we've talked about, Ben, I know you and I have talked about this, and I think that we talked about this on the podcast before, but the benefits, if there are any, of exposure. And I think this will be a nice lead in some point later in the conversation to the what's being known as Signalgate. But I feel like I've heard this story about killed Palestinian journalists so many times over the past, I guess we're trending to 2 years, right? Definitely a year and a half of this since October 7th. And I just don't know. I'm assuming there's a bet on fatigue and just a lack of interest in the amount of killing that happens, right?
Well, I think there's probably a bet on fatigue or futility for people who actually care about the movement. And I have to say, even, speaking for myself, I feel it sometimes. I don't feel fatigue, but I feel futility. Nothing seems to matter, and it just seems to get worse and worse and more brazen. As far as mainstream media and your average person out there, I don't think you could call it fatigue because they're not talking about it. There's basically a mainstream media blockout on any of these stories. I mean, Palestinian journalists are the most targeted journalists in history. They are the majority of journalists killed in war zones, though I do not like to call Gaza a war zone. I think that's a mischaracterization. It's a killing field and a death camp.
that would imply some sort of symmetry if it were a war
Yeah.
zone.
And I think, from the line of your average person who's either wants to think of themselves or as a liberal Zionist or wants to be ambivalent about it, I think that comes to, Andrew, like what we were talking about in the last episode. I think there's an ingrained racism to that. And it isn't for your average lib, I don't think it's a racism like I hate Muslims or I hate Islam or I hate brown people. They don't like to think of themselves that way. But what I do think these people have ingrained in them is that brown deaths are the natural order. Like this is a part of the world, and these are a kind of people where them having violent deaths is a fact of life, and it is just what happens. So it's not something that is worth, getting too upset over. And it's a good way to mask yourself from having to actually come to terms with anything that's happening or face anything that's happening.
Are you saying from like the outside in or like over there? Like, is
From the
these
out,
really
From the outside
citizen?
in, I think
Yeah.
your average liberal person who considers themselves progressive or liberal or whatever, but for whatever reason does not have this genocide at the forefront of their mind. I think there's something deeply ingrained in them that gives them the ability to excuse it away or ignore it.
Oddly enough, with this like political kind of realignment that we're ongoing and experiencing right now, the like non-interventionist like right is pretty like anti-Israel. I know like the
Yeah.
leaders are pretty pro-Israel. They want to sell them stuff, but like the people on the ground, like we were just talking about the comments inside that Tucker Carlson video. I was reading through them right before we jumped on. I'm like, yeah, these people are pretty based. They're like, I don't even know if I'm using that word wrong. I really have no idea how to use it, but I'm like, they're like
Based is
on
whatever you want
topic.
it to be.
Don't you
Yeah,
mean
these
skibbity?
people are these people are killing it because they're like make APAC register as a foreign agent. It's weird. Yeah, it's weird how he keeps like dodging the question on what the future of Israel. And these are clearly people watching Tucker Carlson. They're like what we would consider conservatives. They definitely voted for Trump, but like there's this fringe element. Like let's just call it the Tucker Carlson like populist right. Might also be like Steve Bannon right. I don't know how he feels about like funding and supporting Israel, but like those people don't want to see their tax dollars go over there, and actually like they have more political power to stop what's happening over there than anyone on the left does. You have like positive forces on the left for Israel, like Chuck Schumer, who said since we last recorded that his number one job is to make sure the left stays pro-Israel.
Oh my God. What?
I just want to jump in and echo Andrew's point here about this so-called like non-interventionist right. I still think it is a bit of a fallacy, but to your point, we showed that screenshot of APAC tracker, which has been very diligent about on X Twitter, posting subtweeting people and showing the amount of APAC donations that so and so such and such representative gets or senator gets, etc. And Marjorie Taylor Greene did not receive any money from APAC, which really surprised me.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Surprising, but not surprising. I don't know. Like she is the
I
Jewish
mean,
space laser lady.
that's not where my smart money would go to. But
She don't need no man, you know.
yeah,
Maybe she is like like the most woke, broken from the system freedom fighter, and she just gets a bad rap.
yeah, we talk about Candace Owens with Casey Gain, and maybe just the filter in which I've heard news about Marjorie Taylor Greene is just skewed.
Yeah, maybe we need to give her a shot. I don't know.
Let's get her
She
on the
was right the
pod.
whole time. She was right about everything.
To be fair, Casey said he only kind of like maybe a third of the time agrees with Candace Owens, but he's
Yeah.
he's very much into engaging people on the other side of the spectrum.
Oh, you
Yeah.
have to make some good points, or else it's just like like your takes have to be somewhat based in reality. Otherwise, like there are things that Tucker Carlson will say where I'm like, yeah, that is a big problem. Usually, it's the way they go about talking about the solution where I'm like, that's not. That just creates other problems.
Well, this
Like,
is the funny thing with people. I feel this all the time when I listen to Sagar and Jetty on Breaking Points, is like people who are more on kind of the populist right. They have a lot of the same critiques that like the populist left would have, but the difference
Mhm.
is they can offer zero solutions to it.
Yeah.
Because like when you're going for like populist issues, overall, the solution is some kind of socialism. Like that's like
Mhm.
Yeah, the
like
real
you'll
salute. Yeah.
yeah, you'll hear them talking about like university tuition is way too much. And I was just listening to Breaking Points and Sagar's talking about university tuition being way too much and then like trying to make it that it's actually international students coming over that's hiking up the prices of student tuition as if like universities are not just like completely captured like capitalist organizations that are just price gouging education. And it's like, hey, I got news for you, buddy. There's a real easy way to make school cheap. You can make it free even. There's this crazy way you could.
Yeah.
And then the same thing with healthcare. They'll talk about how healthcare is too expensive, but you talk about, oh, let's get rid of insurance and let's have Medicare for all. They don't want to hear anything about that. So I feel like that's always a fallacy of the populist right is they have a lot of the correct critiques, but
Right.
all roads lead to capitalism with it, and they don't want to go down that route. So they have nothing to offer aside from, anger at immigrants.
Yeah. Freeloaders, angry immigrants. I actually had or I messaged my friend. I was harassing one of my conservative friends about healthcare in the United States. And because there's this video on TikTok, and I had this experience as well. It's kind of shocking. People probably don't know this, but like if you choose to pay out of pocket, you get this like natural, like self-pay discount from a hospital. So it's like, say, a MRI. Um, if you get an MRI, it's like $2,400, but if you pay for it out of pocket, it's almost half. Not everything's half, but it's a pretty heavy discount. So $1,200 out of pocket. My premiums have always been like $7,500 or something for like me and my wife. I don't know if that's like individually, but like we got in this situation where we were either gonna have to like find different. It was like within the window, find different insurance, and we ended up just paying for the MRI out of pocket. So I knew this to be true, and I sent it to him, and he's like, that's. He might have called it welfare, and I'm like, no, no, no. He's paying for it out of pocket. He's just not going through an insurance company. Isn't it weird that our system charges more to insurance companies, which does make sense to me because it's a middleman.
Mhm.
There's extra
Yeah.
paperwork, extra processing, all this bullshit. They don't want to pay out sometimes.
So he's mad that you cheated
Yeah, he actually
by
kind of like he's like, you're making my insurance rates go up, and I'm like, it doesn't work like that. I'm like, your insurance is certainly not picking up the lack of income for the hospitals. Like the prices aren't going up for your insurance, your negotiated rate. This is like a long road to walk. I don't know if any of it makes sense in the short term, but like I would love to at some point get someone on just talk about how like the bureaucracy of healthcare, it cannot be inherently capitalistic because of the insurance companies. And insurance companies are a little micro socialist network. You pool together your money with a bunch of people to distribute risk, and then it pays out to who needs it the most. So the thing that makes the most sense is to centralize it, have the biggest pool of people, and pay out, and you have like a better negotiating rates. I don't know. This is like the one thing I feel the strongest about.
Well, no, I think I agree with your friend. Like, yeah, like the rates do go up because they do have to still provide care for all these uninsured people. But
But it doesn't
his solution is not to be mad at the people who need care, but rather to socialize medicine.
Well, it's certainly like if someone comes in there and they have no money, they can't pay their bills at all. But it's like a ER sort of thing. Like someone gets shot
Yeah.
off the street, they're poor, they go in. I don't know who's footing that bill. Maybe it's just written off as debt. Maybe it's a tax deductible thing for the hospital that they can just write off. But it's not going to increase the insurance premiums of
well
the top
yeah
four.
if someone gets treated for a gunshot wound and they don't have the money to pay for it, then they go into massive debt. And yeah, that money, if it never gets paid, goes on to a ledger that I guess doesn't matter at all because that money never existed in the first place.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So why don't you just cut out the middleman and not have insurance companies and have everybody pay a little more in taxes? And then everybody could not fear ruining their life from
Yeah.
a gunshot wound or, I don't know, an ambulance ride or, I don't know, having a baby.
Yeah. Well, the baby thing's another big one. I'm surprised that that's one that the Republicans should get down with. It's like, yeah, like the government should cover the cost of babies. Like we're facing like depopulation, and they're all about like, let's get more babies. We don't want immigrants. More babies, more babies. No one wants to fucking have a baby because of the economy, the cost of having a
Yeah,
baby, daycare.
again, going back to that, like people on the right can correctly identify the problem. Like, yes, like birth rates are going down. People aren't starting families. People aren't buying houses or getting married. But, there's an easy fix for that to incentivize
Yeah.
those things, make it easier to do. Other countries do it.
Hmm.
So if you could, imagine having a child without going into massive debt or worrying that, if that child gets sick, it's going to absolutely ruin you and ruin your life. And you may
Well,
lose the child anyway.
Ben, I don't know how much childcare it is in the UK, but in the US, it's astronomical.
Yeah, it's more
It's,
than like rent in New York City.
Easily. I
yeah,
mean, there's a reason that like some people are choosing just to stay at home and not have a second income to the household, like one of the spouse staying home.
Maybe that's their grand plan.
Yeah.
Bring back the family unit.
It's
Yeah.
bad here. They are starting a government scheme this year that if you're, both parents are making an X amount of money, you can get some credits for childcare. I can't really explain it all to you that easily, but yeah, there are some government subsidies that are going to go into that, but it's not nearly enough. And also, the flip side of that is assuming that okay, one parent stays home, the other one works. Well, how much fucking money does that one parent need to make to support
Yeah.
that whole family?
Hmm.
It's like sure, if the mom or dad is in finance, you can do that. But even if you live in New York City or California or something, that's probably still not enough either. So it doesn't seem, yeah, it doesn't seem to solve the problem either way.
Yeah. You guys are in London proper?
Yeah,
Okay. You guys staying in London for a while or you got because
yeah.
you can have a kid in the city for a while. Like I have a few friends with kids in the city, but like I think they all kind of long term are like, yeah, probably gonna like that's and it's natural. You move out to the suburbs, there's more space, land is cheaper, land you can get more land for your buck. But like I don't know, I feel like there is like a growing gap. There's like poor people can have kids just because like, the cost of living in like those areas is cheaper. And then the super wealthy like finance people can do that because they can, essentially subsidize and finance like if they need like someone to come in like a nanny or and whatnot to pay for childcare. I feel like there's like a big middle ground where it's like I can't afford to have a kid. Are you kidding me? Or like your
Hmm.
lifestyle would have to change dramatically. This is as a non-child person, so I don't really know, but I mean I can at least run the numbers and be like, what would I do? That's like wild.
I feel like
Yeah.
so much of the conservative mindset or right-leaning mindset about this is just like you're gonna figure it out, you'll just this is like part of growing up. You're just gonna have to like learn to prioritize, make hard choices. It's like
Maybe.
I just
Get rich.
yeah.
Is this like they don't understand like how inflation works either, where they're like, I made $7 when I had my first job and that was fine. It's like, yeah, but like the cost of a house was, you know,
Yeah.
20 grand.
You
Nine
could you could live
dollars.
on like a single income household.
Yeah, that's like pretty complex. I mean, there's definitely like generations be older than us when there was like half as much workforce because women were like designated to stay home essentially. That becomes awfully complicated.
Yeah, but don't you
Um,
think the economy built around that rather than the opposite?
what like currently?
No, no. I mean, if prices are based off of what someone can afford, right? What the consumer can afford, I assume they would conform to the single income household.
It's not going to conform universally because some people don't get married, some people do, some people don't get married, don't have kids. So like it's not like an equal spread. I don't know
No,
if
I'm
I'm
just saying
understanding
like
what you're saying perfectly.
pre-Reagan, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to bring it back, you can choose to pay for your own healthcare and they give you a discounted rate for paying directly because you're cutting out a
We'll
middleman.
just
And that sounds
make that
great.
one cut. I kind
And
of want
I just want to say fuck you to my friend who thought that I was a welfare because I paid out of pocket instead of
to,
paying
gosh,
through some middleman. That's wild to me. I don't, and that
Yeah.
that to me is like the like capitalist creep inside the brain. Be like, but you're not
Yeah.
going through the middleman. It's like, dude, why do you think you need
Yeah.
that? I'm not an asshole for not doing
this
that.
goes back to what we were talking about last week about like this pride and not taking kind of like any kind of government assistance.
Yeah, but it wasn't even government assistance. I literally
Right,
just
right, yeah,
paid
yeah,
the fucking thing.
yeah, yeah.
It's like this weird conservative brain rot of like, I don't know, the law of diminishing returns is happening with it started with this sort of I'm the salt of the earth, I don't need help from anybody. And then you have to keep justifying the system you live under. So you end up being where the conservative MAGA movement is now, where you're like simping for like healthcare insurance agencies and
Yeah.
billionaires, and Tesla, of course, is the big one. So like everyone feels the need to be like full-throatedly defending Elon Musk and everything he does, and Tesla just as a corporation is like talking against them is like hate speech and terrorism now. It must be fucking exhausting to be on that side of the aisle right now. You gotta bitch out for so much lame shit.
Yeah. It's just like a not willingness to accept any other like perspective on the way to live your life.
Hmm.
A lot of people choose just not to get healthcare and save up. Instead of spending $1,500 a month on healthcare, you just put it in a savings account and
Without
pay.
your
And when something
tax.
comes up, you do it yourself.
Yeah, I hope you don't get leukemia.
Yeah, that's the only thing. It's like catastrophic. The trade-off is like you get to feel all warm and safe, but then when you do get leukemia, they just
Yeah.
they deny you. And
Yeah, they deny you either way when you get leukemia, so it kind of doesn't matter. I mean, if you get leukemia, just go to Spain or
yeah, you might
something.
as well. True, Canada. Dan, you were talking about, I mean, we can move on from this healthcare talk. We should get someone on here though, because I find that topic pretty interesting. I think that's like if I were to wave a wand over America, that's the one thing I'd fix.
Yeah.
But Dan, you were saying like something weird in Massachusetts where people are like not auditioning, that's not the right word, but like in like applying for doctors and you have to like pay them a yearly credit. Is
Yeah,
that
concierge fee.
common? Concierge fee?
Concierge fee of last I saw, I don't know if this is the same everywhere that I've just heard $1,000 annual
That's
fee.
wild.
Yeah.
Just to be
So
on the roster.
just to be on the roster, right? I actually just got my primary care doctor. Only took me 2 to 3 years to find one that had an opening.
So that's a shortage of doctors. That's a shortage
Yeah.
issue.
I'll do a plug for a book I read that was really great talking about the healthcare system in America. It's called Deaths of Despair. It's not as sad as the title sounds, but it really does talk about how, there's many factors that really lead up to the illness of American healthcare, if you will. And one of them is that they talked about that I thought was really interesting was the way that like medical schools work. Like they keep the amount of admissions artificially low, so thus when you graduate to pay off that debt, you can still command a higher salary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
Really good
something I've
book.
never heard of.
Yeah, it talks a
Pretty
lot about
interesting.
like the declining life rate in like the white population in America. Again, it's not like a conspiratorial book. It was a New York Times bestseller, but highly recommend it.
You mean how the Jews are trying to replace us?
Yeah, that was actually their second book. So, yeah.
That's the colon. Deaths of despair.
That
Jews
was the
Jews are trying
goal.
to
And
replace
yeah.
us.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I wanted to pull it back real quick and talk about
Sure.
something that Ben had mentioned earlier when I was talking about fatigue, hearing about a lot of the deaths that are happening in Gaza and Palestine. And I think you had a good point, Ben, which is like there's not any fatigue by the larger populace because they don't know anything about it, right? They're not being fed it on legacy media or anything like that. And I think that a lot of people probably don't have the same algorithm as us three.
Hmm.
I know you want to talk
Well,
about Gal Gadot.
oh no, I think we've
Well, what is the Gal Gadot thing?
yeah, so in maybe the most brazen piece of Hasbara to date, Gal Gadot has been awarded a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Gen just how many points on that star? I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I'm just
Jeez.
kidding. Don't come for me. That would be fucking
Oh,
hilarious
good.
though if it was the starring David on the fucking.
Oh my God. What, like they just, yeah, they do Nazi Germany style. It's Jewish stars for Jewish stars.
And then Mel gets what did we call him the other day? We were like, Gibson, Mr.
Yeah,
Gibson.
yeah.
Mr.
Uh
Gibson.
yeah, Mel gets a pretty savage like Iron Cross, a Pete Hegseth cross.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, keep going.
Um, yeah, I don't know if we need to talk about Gal Gadot, actually. I kind of lost my steam for that. Could we shift directions and could we talk a little bit about Trump's portrait at the
Oh
Colorado
man,
State
yeah.
Capitol?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, mean undertone
Dude,
on that
his
thing.
rant. We should read his tweet or his truth
Yeah,
about it.
I've got it here.
Yep.
So, for those of you who don't know, obviously state capitals all have a picture of the sitting president. So, a new portrait of Donald Trump has been put up in Colorado. And I don't know, I mean, looking at it, it's pretty basic oil painting. It looks like him. He's like, I don't know, like, what would you guys say? Would you say it's like any more egregious than his actual look? I don't know. He looks like a little more jowly.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, Jowly.
yeah, it's very jolly.
But
Yeah,
you
so
could definitely tell it's him.
I
It's
mean,
not a
I
good
would be
painting.
upset. I'd be upset.
it
It
doesn't look great. The question, I suppose, is was it done on purpose? Um, was it a Goya situation where he was, painting the royals as they are to make them look
Yeah.
disgusting and inbred? He does look chunky and jowly, but I think
It kind of looks like me after a
it,
hangover. It's all
yeah.
bloated and
Okay.
yeah.
Damn,
yeah,
Ben.
a hangover and then like getting pulled out of a lake after you drown. Uh, Yeah, but the thing is, as is often the case with stuff with Trump, like probably no one would have noticed had it not
Yeah.
been for his reaction to it.
Yeah.
So
Ooh.
Trump put out a truth to it, which also went onto Twitter because I think he just screenshots his truths and then puts them on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
Which
There's a whole team for that.
which I have to say works against him because like truths can be like I don't think there's any like limit to how
Character
long they
limit.
can be.
Yeah,
And Trump definitely benefits from like the max amount of characters.
for sure.
His Twitter heyday was back when they were doing like 160 characters or
Yeah.
whatever. So let me just read out. This is his response. Nobody likes a bad picture or painting of themselves, but the one in Colorado, in the state capitol, put up by the governor, along with all the other presidents, was purposefully distorted to a level that even I, perhaps, have never seen before. The artist also did President Obama, and he looks wonderful. But the
Strange
one
up that he finally gave Obama. She also did Barack Hussein Obama.
he looks very
It's
handsome,
great.
stunning, really. Yeah. So President Obama, and he looks wonderful. But the one on me is truly the worst. She must have lost talent as she got older. In any event,
God, he's so funny.
in any event, I would much prefer not having a picture than having this one. But many people from Colorado have called and written to complain. In fact, they are actually angry about it. I am speaking on their behalf to the radical left governor, Jared Polis, who is extremely weak on crime. In particular, in particular with respect to Trendo Aragua, which practically took over Aurora. Parentheses, don't worry, we saved it. To take it down. Jared should be ashamed of himself.
There was a conspiracy theory during Trump's first term, wondering if he did write his own tweets. Because sometimes they really are just like poetry.
Hmm.
It's really great, like bully pulpit stuff.
I never doubted it.
You
I
always think that he writes his own tweets.
Yeah.
I think he might be the one politician who I don't think he types them himself.
No. Read but not dictated but not
Yeah,
read.
yeah, I think he's dictating it, but I think he might be the one politician in history who writes every tweet.
I
It's
think when he
just
was on
you can't
Twitter, yeah. But like
how
now
could
I
you
don't know.
yeah. Yeah,
They're longer now.
they're longer, they're more rambling, so maybe it's more AIDS now. But, Golden Age Trump on Twitter, I don't think there's anyone who can ghostwrite that voice.
Yeah.
There's even
Agreed.
hints of it in this though. Like everything about this truth is just so him.
Wait,
Like
sorry,
I
is that what
love
you call them? Are they called truths when you
I think
post
they're
them?
yeah,
called truths, yeah.
That's great.
yeah. It's clunky. Um,
It's Orwellian.
Yeah.
yeah. Everything about this is so beautifully Trump. The fact that he's talking about Obama, who looks wonderful, by the way, like that is so him. Of the man will give credit where credit is due when it comes to people being good looking or fatties.
Have you seen I was looking at the park you put the portraits up
Her
here.
portfolio, yeah.
Yeah, it's not as bad as I thought when I first saw it.
No, he looks like a Mike Judd, King of the Hill style portrait
To
of
be fair, a lot
Donald
of these
Trump.
look like Mike Judd, King of the Hills.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He
George
looks
Bush
like
is actually really good. I think
Yeah,
he looks great.
yeah.
Young Obama, some random judge, and then Muammar Gaddafi.
Yeah, it looks like Gaddafi.
No, it's just
Hilarious.
like a ridiculous. It's actually a British priest, like the priest of the Navy or something like
Does it
that.
say it has the triptych in the back? It's crazy.
I just want to point out one other thing from this that I really love. And I think it kind of segues into the Signalgate response that Trump had is that his like knee-jerk reaction whenever he's thinking off the cuff about responding to anything is he needs to respond by reminding us that whoever he's talking about sucks, like sucks
Yeah.
at their job or
Yeah.
isn't as good as they used to be. So talking about, President Obama and he looks wonderful. She must have lost her talent as she got older. Like
Savage
just
dig.
Yeah.
I really like that. I like
like his
uh
his response to the Mike Waltz signal messages coming out. So he's, which like I don't know, maybe he doesn't really know what's going on. I wouldn't be surprised if he's checked out, but when he was responding to those messages and he's like, "Okay, so this was printed in the Atlantic. Okay, well the Atlantic sucks, first of all. Second of all, I don't know what we're talking about."
wait. So in the group chat he said that they just continued talking with that journalist in there.
No, no. Trump wasn't in the group chat after the story
Oh, Trump said that.
broke. Yeah, yeah. After the
Got it.
story broke, when he was questioned about it, he was giving his same thing as with Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death. This is the first I'm hearing of it.
Yeah.
That's a very a Trump line.
He knows not to step on a live wire. Like when
Yeah.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, he wasn't gonna be like, "Good, she was terrible for this country." Like he's like, "All right, I won that battle. No, no need to drop
Hmm.
extra ire. Now I'm gonna switch to this mode, which is I'm a decent human being. Let's get this shit done." He's
Hmm.
very politically savvy. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
think
he did
anyone
that
can take
with
that away
Carter's
from him.
death as well when he gave a eulogy at Carter's death and followed
Did
that
he? I
same
don't
playbook.
remember that.
Yeah.
He
Huh.
died like a dog.
Like took away
Uh,
Panama. Panama. Yeah, this one last thing on this art while I have it up. She does pretty bad human portraits, but god damn, can she do a dog portrait?
yeah, I was
She
just
should
looking
do
at those.
all the president's dog like pet portraits.
I'd love
So
that.
she's good at dogs, bad with human faces.
Bad with human faces, but fantastic dog portraits.
Her
Oh, so
old
like
master
like
reproductions aren't
Hitler.
so bad.
Just Hitler did castles, but
Yeah,
he
Hitler
was really
did.
bad at
Yeah.
perspective. It's actually kind of sad.
Yeah, landscapes, I think, right?
He loved dogs. He didn't paint them. Okay. Yeah, never mind.
Should we talk about Signalgate? News broke earlier this week that war plans to bomb Yemen's capital in Sana'a were leaked in a private Signal group chat to the Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg. To be precise, Goldberg was somehow inadvertently invited into this private group chat with Pete Hegseth, Mike Waltz, JD
Tulsi
Vance.
Gabbard.
Gabbard was in there. Okay. Yeah. And so,
Yeah.
anyways, 30 minutes before the strikes happened, they're giving the play-by-play, and we're led to believe that Goldberg was just invited to this chat and sitting there in the background, unbeknownst to the members of the chat. And so it's become a
Much like James Bond in the Opera House during Quantum of Solace.
correct. Yeah.
God, you just referenced like a very specific scene in maybe the worst Daniel Craig James Bond film.
Well, but
Disagree.
it feels
But
like
respect, I know exactly what you're talking about.
it. I mean, it feels like this scandal is one of the worst scandals I've ever heard.
It's
But
pretty silly.
I'll reserve my judgment until I hear what you guys think about it.
Yeah, first
S
question is, do we buy it?
Oh yeah, we're
oh yeah, I
reviving.
buy it. I don't know. They're going through a lot of heat right now. What would be
I don't
the
know.
upside to them trying to peddle this as like a false flag?
I don't know. I guess, I mean, when it first broke, I was like, there's no way this is real. Because
Right.
also, I'm inclined not to believe anything that comes out of Jeffrey Goldberg's tome of writing.
Mhm.
He's not a reliable source to anybody who's unfamiliar with him. He was very
Yeah.
instrumental in peddling lies about Saddam Hussein's connections to Al Qaeda. He was a volunteer prison guard for the IDF. So
Don't forget the
anything that's
Russian
talking,
bounties story.
yeah, the Russian bounty story, I forgot about that. Yeah, so Jeffrey Goldberg should not have a career, much less being listened to right now in this. So yeah, and it was just like, I don't know, looking at, I haven't read all of the messages, but there was something about it that just seemed so stage managed of the way they were
Mm.
talking to each other. And I don't know, I mean, we all have a private group chat with the boys, right?
Yeah.
And it felt a little curated to me. That being said, the more time is going on, the more I'm thinking, okay, maybe it was real.
I think it's real. You told me that about Jeffrey, is it Goldberg?
Yeah.
Jeffrey Goldberg? Yeah, his background. I was like, oh, okay, well, this would be a weird one to lie about because it, could be pretty disproven pretty easily. But, people lie all the time just for a cool headline for a week or two. But I think the blowback on this, I think it's been validated enough. And like the cover that and like the manipulation of the story, they're slowly turning it to like this was actually a good thing. Like soon it'll be like this is how our government should run. Like if we
Yeah.
have to like we're nimble now. But I just want to say like Signal is like an app you use to contact your drug dealer. Like it's not something that you should be using for national security. And I'm sure they
Yeah.
have like, and I guess they do have like encrypted ways of communicating in government. Like that would make sense. That would make a lot of sense. Why are you using a consumer app? That's the thing that like bothers me about it, but I don't know. That's like the thing that bothers me is just how reckless it is to do that. And I generally don't think these people are super
Why,
competent. I
why
don't
does
have
that
faith.
bother you? Why does recklessness bother you?
Well, I mean, these people do have like super important jobs. I might not like them, but I mean, certainly what they do is important. And if they are talking about this stuff on like a medium that can be intercepted, I'm sure Signal is not as all powerfully encrypted as I'm sure the Chinese government or some other French. I'm sure every government can break into Signal,
Yeah.
every like developed government.
Easily. Yeah,
So
easily.
I mean, it's encrypted for you, me to talk on it, and like local police probably won't be able to get into it, but maybe. I think WhatsApp is owned by Facebook, and I guarantee they let the government in there all the time, but it's
You,
in quote unquote end-to-end encrypted.
you used to not be able to
Uh,
screenshot on WhatsApp. You can do that now.
oh, is that right? I
Yeah.
didn't know
Mhm.
that.
Sorry
I
to.
don't know. Yeah, it bothers me because it is like this is actually a matter of national security, and if I know they're doing something like pretty, I actually don't know if it's good or bad. What they were, what was this about? Bombing the Houthis in what,
And
Yemen?
Yemen, yeah.
Okay, which is I, I don't
N-
know much about it, but
Not
us bombing
good.
not good. Okay,
Uh, yeah, it's illegally bombing the Houthis at the behest of Israel.
I see.
Um, yeah, it's them, it's their group chat revealing that the boys are doing war crimes. Is basically what it was. And we found from one of those bombings that, one of those precision targets against some unnamed Houthi fighter or whatever it is, whether it's real or not. They bombed a apartment building where he was going to visit his girlfriend. So that's
Mm.
talking about, massive casualties for this and all in the service of Israel's genocide. I think that's the real scandal here. And it's very telling also that, mainstream media is really just focused on the palace intrigue of it rather than the most substantial part of
That's a
the
good
story,
point.
which is what they were actually doing. I think that's not an accident. Now, to be fair, for purposes like unserious people like us, is it funny? Yes, it's very funny. Um, like going back to what I said, like the more I've thought about it, the more I'm like, yeah, this probably happened. It's also definitely if it was a mistake on Michael Waltz's part, then also it's a guarantee that Michael Waltz is leaking information to Jeffrey Goldberg. That's the
It's
only,
100% that. And if you
yeah.
followed the story, they've been pictured together. They just revealed that friends on Venmo are people on the left-leaning media, CNN, MSNBC, Fox is too, to be fair. It seems a little too stage managed, as you said.
But
Yeah.
why would
Yeah,
he out
well,
himself in that?
and Goldberg is the definition of what we talked about with Lisa Pease
Yeah.
in a deep state CIA cutout as a journalist.
Yeah.
I mean, that is
That's
what
why he
his
still has a
career,
career. He will
yeah, that
trickle
is
out
what his
information.
career has been. You know,
Yeah.
he is releasing curated propaganda to people. That's been his whole, that is what the Russian bounties was. That's what Saddam and Al Qaeda was. That's probably to an effect what this was. Just I'm wondering how much it
If
was curated or if this was a little bit of a fuck up. I mean, it's so telling also. The funniest thing about this is that I didn't read his stupid article, but in his article, he talks about how he willingly left the group chat because it was like indecent of him to be peeking at them, like like
what? He said
like
that?
that's
Yeah.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
that is such a
You're a
bitch move.
shitty reporter if you did
Yeah,
that,
and
if you
you're
left.
bad at your job.
Yeah, dude, hey, not my fault. What is interesting, it'll be kind of cool at some point because they're like, well, nothing was confidential. I mean, obviously, like it probably was all super confidential shit. You're like
Mhm.
planning war, but I do want to talk about JD Vance's text inside of it because I thought that was pretty crazy. Um, and maybe we should do that because there's something else that you said that I wanted to talk about, but it slipped my mind now.
Yeah, I think that
So
like sorry, I just want to say this. A takeaway
yeah,
regarding Vance is, and I think this is actually a good one, if there's going to be anybody who benefits from this, is that there's some daylight between Trump and Vance was
Mhm.
one of the
mm,
takeaways about what's being said. So I thought that was an interesting prompt.
Well, right, because
and
he was the only one saying like there's no
He
strategic
disagrees with Trump.
utility of this, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 He's saying there's some inconsistency with Trump's messaging, I think, to Europe.
Yeah, he's
So
like, why are we doing He's like, the only reason we're doing this is like to help Europe. Like, I don't want to
yeah,
help Europe. And so, okay, this is what I was going to ask Ben, or writing off of what Ben was saying, and kind of like it feels a bit stage managed. Like, okay, so if we're just going to play it out, like this was meant to be leaked or something. So the
Hmm.
benefit I see here is, so Trump ran as like a peacetime president, like a president of peace. So him bombing a country doesn't really look very good, like bombing like out of nowhere, starting shit. Also, from Vance's perspective, it is helping, like not us really. It's not in America's interest to be doing this. Um, so to have this story come out, yeah, it makes them look a little bad, but it's like again, kind of like, oh, they weren't doing everything by the book. But like, dude, we're a bunch of fucking mavericks, you know? Like we're on
yeah.
Yeah.
Signal, we're doing this, we're doing like we're tech people. I could see them like writing that and being like, it's a secure network, and then the base not knowing. So I could see them doing this as cover for something that would otherwise just be unpopular if the facts were presented. Be like, oh yeah, by the way, like we carried out these strikes against Yemen, and then the base would be like, why the fuck are we bombing Yemen?
Yeah.
Like that's not the question anymore. The
Yeah.
question is like, is it important that they use not Signal? Like, is it important that they use like the government tools, which becomes a way less, who cares? Like a lot
Yeah.
of people would be like, I don't know, I don't care, I use
Yeah.
Signal.
And I think that's what's bothered me so much about it is there's this raising of hypocrisy. Like, oh, well, the right went so hard against Trump went so hard against Hillary Clinton for the private email server. I think Clinton even tweeted, but her emails. So, keeping that flame alive for some reason, rather than what I find so damaging and what Ben was just mentioning, which is the bombing of Yemen and the continuance of that intervention.
That's a good point. And these are untraceable. Like these are off like congressional traceable methods, like the usual skiff methods, I guess, is what they're called. Like
Hmm.
those, although they're like private, they can be like recalled if it ever needs to like go to Congress. Whereas this is like outside of the purview of Congress, and they wouldn't, like I don't think anyone knew these group chats existed, so they wouldn't be able to pull them in for
Hmm.
like records.
that's a scandal, and I think also to your point, Andrew, it does work to their advantage in that like it's a scandal that no one is going to give a shit about in like 3 weeks, aside from shit libs. Like Hillary Clinton will talk about it for the next 10 years, but your average person is going to forget about this pretty quickly because because some other weird shit will happen. And this is what Trump administration number one did so well is you'd have all these scandals that you could write off as buffoonish
Hmm.
and oafish and stupid,
The
and
perfect phone
every
call.
yeah, and everybody Democrat leaning gets to, kind of twirl their Chardonnay and be like,
Hmm.
oh, these fools,
It's
you know.
Kavifi, like
Yeah.
I just feel like
Well,
the
Yeah.
media hasn't learned anything. And by proxy, nor the Democrats. I feel like they're really running with this story. They really want it to be the first nail in that coffin.
Well, and
it's not
well,
gonna be
the
that.
I just don't think the
The
base
Dem
cares. I don't think their base cares.
yeah, no,
Absolutely not.
their base
They're
doesn't
just,
give a
well,
shit.
actually, you know what? They do care because the problem they have with Trump, which is something we talked about before, is they're just embarrassed by him.
Yeah, but
His base?
No, the Democrat base.
yeah, the Democrat
Oh
base
yeah.
will be embarrassed by it. Trump's base won't give a shit, and
Yeah.
Democratic politicians can't go on the real substance of it, which is, the bombing of people in Yemen, because that's been company policy for the last, what,
Yeah.
15 years? I mean,
Yeah,
before Gaza, Saudi Arabia was carrying out their own genocide on the Yemeni people. Well, the last year, Joe Biden talked about bombing the Houthis, and when asked if it would work, he said no, but we're going to keep doing it. So no one on the Democrat side can say shit about it because they were doing the exact same thing. So they have to go after, again, the palace intrigue side of it,
Yeah.
which is, fun for wonks to opine about, but I don't know,
okay.
who cares?
So George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, now Donald Trump again, all bombed the Houthis in Yemen,
Yeah.
Hmm.
or targeting Al Qaeda and sometimes, but they all bombed Yemen.
Mostly at the behest of Saudi Arabia, right? And
Yeah.
then, yeah, now there's the Israeli element to it as well.
You guys, well, I read about it, but I didn't look into it. Like the corridor that they want to kind of move into, the Israeli
What is it?
government,
The Philadelphia corridor?
the Philadelphia Eagle corridor.
Is that what it is?
No, that's the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, yeah. Where's at Ryan Krim? Um,
Uh, I don't. Yeah, I wanted to look into it because I saw some other like some maps, but I don't know.
I know it's been
Pretty
contentious
wild.
because I think that,
There's no stop. Like this thing is
oh
going to
yeah,
just totally boil over into like 10 more countries, right?
yeah. I think that's the point, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Guys, just FYI, I have a 5 minute. I have to dip in 5 minutes before Emily fucking kills me. But
Damn, bro. What's going on?
oh, she's leaving for London tomorrow, so we've just got a bunch of shit to do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right. Well,
well, the Pope is healthy again. God bless. Our prayers were answered. Trump is gonna kick up a 25% tariff on auto parts, maybe. I mean, none of his tariffs ever actually seem to happen, but that'll be cool because my lease is up and I think I might want to buy it. So I'm a Trumper now. That's all I got. That affects me personally in a very small way, so now everything else doesn't matter.
let's see. Conor McGregor is still running for president. Uh,
When is
the
that election?
numbers are, I don't know. I was looking into it too, and like, I guess I probably could have guessed this, but like, the president of Ireland is almost a purely ceremonial role.
Makes
Like,
Right.
sense.
they don't legislate. It's, it's like being the king of Spain. It doesn't matter.
Okay, so it's November. Man, he
Yeah.
looks terrible. Ah,
Conor
Connor?
McGregor. Imagine
yeah.
those rallies.
Oh God.
It'd be like his cabinet is all just like appointed by like Fight Clubs sort of auditions.
I mean,
I
that's
do.
yeah,
I want
Hustlers
to.
University.
I want to do a shout out to that student who was arrested and that it was like all
Yeah.
filmed. I just
Yes.
want to find her name and say it.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, that was horrifying.
yeah, dude,
It
that's
did make
like
me wonder because I
jackboot
saw this in
thugs.
a comment about the video is how does ICE usually capture people, detain
It
people?
so
And go ahead.
agents. It's agents from Department of Homeland Security. I don't know if ICE is a subsect of that, but I don't. Yeah, it says Department of Homeland Security. I don't know her name, but she wrote a
It's
like
Rumeysa
you.
Ozturk, right?
I'm gonna
yeah,
butcher this, but Yoon Seo Chung.
different person we're
Different,
talking about.
yeah.
Yeah, so she we're gonna have a lot of names and probably by next week.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the video that was on
It
Instagram that
does,
we
yeah.
both posted. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, you had it, Dan. You Mesa Ozturk. You Mesa
Rumeysa
Ozturk.
Ozturk, yeah.
Yeah, student at Tufts. She wrote an op-ed, co-author of an opinion essay that criticized university leaders for their stance on the war in Gaza.
So
Apparently,
that's what gets you detained nowadays.
they immediately like revoked her student visa, and then kind of seems like they knew like set up a sting operation to pick her up after her visa was expired. I don't even know if she knew her visa was expired. Like I think it could have been just like a light switch, and then they're like, "All right, get her out," which is fucking wild.
So this is
It's
wild.
so scary.
I'm reading about Rubio's Rubio's justification. If you apply, this is, I'm quoting, if you apply for a visa to enter the United States and be a student, and you tell us that the reason you're coming to the United States is not just because you want to write op-eds, but because you want to participate in movements that are involved in doing things like vandalizing universities, harassing students, taking over buildings, creating a ruckus, we are not going to give you a visa. We gave you a visa to come and study and get a degree, not to become a social activist that tears up our university campus. We've given you a visa and you decide to do that, we're going to take it away. They should have used a comma there. We don't want it. We don't want it in our country. Go back and do it in your country. Really just pathetic. Really, really low.
It's really pathetic. It's really, I mean, it's horrifying before anything
Yeah,
else,
yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And yeah, you're right. We're going to be seeing a lot more of these, I think. Yeah, it is pathetic in that like it is not demonstrating strength like they think it is. It
Yeah.
really is demonstrating weakness. And yeah, again, we talked about this with Mahmoud Khalil. Just anybody who is gleeful about these deportations, is happy that they're happening, or thinks they're deserved or whatever. It's a hop, skip, and a jump away from happening to U.S. citizens or
Hmm.
naturalized citizens, at least. I mean, this is how it creeps in. That justification for revoking a visa or a green card could very easily be used for a naturalized citizen of going, well, we wouldn't have given you citizenship had we known that you were going to do this. And quickly, I mean, I don't know where this goes other than just people stop going to America, either going to America to go for school or going to America for, you know, vacation. Like,
Well,
why
isn't that the
would you?
point,
That
right?
would be interesting. Yeah.
Is it? I don't
Uh,
know.
I think it's I think it's more so just to make sure they don't show up and protest. I don't know. I think people still will come here for the vacation thing's interesting to me because we love money. And if it starts to affect us economically, like that'd be one thing. Uh,
I
but
mean,
we're
maybe
suffering
not
right
in
now
the
economically. So,
maybe
and
not in
it,
the immediate short term, but that's what that's what you can expect if this becomes a long-standing policy, I would say. I wouldn't want to come if I
who
knew that
was
that was uh, if I knew, and this, it's been really incredible to see like a lot of people on the right, again, like Sakura and Jetty, who I hate, talking about the Bill of Rights and talking about the First Amendment and all of this as if it doesn't apply to everyone and it only applies to U.S. citizens. Like it's so
Which
fucking
is not true.
embarrassing.
It's
Yeah,
just
which
not
is
true. It's simply not
it's
true.
it's simply not true. That like that's insane. That's madness. That
I,
it would only
yeah.
apply to U.S. citizens. Like I don't know why he had to have
No, the
the
Bill of Rights
concept.
literally applies to anyone on our soil.
That's the point, and that's always been the point, like the bragging point of America First types who talk about what separates America from
Yep.
Russia or China or North Korea. If you want to be the exceptional nation that's so much better, the shining city on the hill, that's what that myth came from.
Mhm.
So if you take away that, then how do you get to say that America is not authoritarian?
No.
It's just,
Yeah.
it's
Why would you
absolute
want that?
nonsense.
I don't understand like
Yeah.
why you'd want to be like, actually, I have special citizen privilege. I have
Well,
free speech.
I think it's what we were talking about with Israel and Gaza last week is I think we've gotten to such a deranged point. I mean, Israel's a few years ahead of the US in this, several years ahead, but you can see the MAGA movement bringing the US there is I think it's not enough to be, the one with the big stick with all the power. Eventually, again, diminishing returns, you need more, and that is going to manifest itself in cruelty. And that's what you see with these deportations, with sending people to a fucking gulag in El Salvador
No.
with no
Yeah,
due
it's fucking
process.
crazy.
It's
You
like,
see the Chrissy
I,
Gnome video
Yeah.
of her like in front of a bunch of
yeah,
caged men. That's wild.
yeah, it's so beyond disgusting. And what could the point of that possibly be beyond cruelty?
Just that is cruelty, like advertising cruelty, um,
Hmm.
as a deterrent. And I think they've openly talked about how that's like a good tool that they want to use.
Yeah.
Like good.
Yeah.
What was the name of the I think it was a Chinese student at Columbia because she like
There's,
went into hiding, right? And then
yeah,
countersued the Trump administration. Then the judge just said that
Yuncio Chung, I'm probably mispronouncing that, but yeah, by the way, a Korean American student. She was a green card holder, but she had lived in the United States since she was 7 years old.
hmm,
That's insane.
So someone who has
yeah,
no, you know,
not a foreign like came over here because they like donated a ton of money, like pretty much an
yeah.
American
Yep.
citizen.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe, follow us, share us with your friends.